45 seconds of logos. And Cybertron looks an awful lot like a matte painting of Tron, superimposed over a matte painting of Coruscant that Iron City vomited all over.
Where's B-127?
Sorry, boss, just waiting for my hero cue. Also, in an opening scene that is pretty much all computer graphics, the staging of this action is even more egregious than usual. This is a controlled environment where concern for safety is out the window, along with covering up stunt doubles and bad takes, and they still cut this like assholes.
Decepticons, attack! Autobots, fall back!
I believe the look of confusion on Optimus Prime's mantle here is that, just like the audience, he too can't figure out the difference between the Decepticons and the Autobots in these movies.
I found a planet that's well hidden. Earth.
Why is Earth well hidden? And why are you showing a giant hologram of it in front of the enemies who could see it?
You must protect the planet. If the Decepticons find it, then our people are truly finished.
But only Bumblebee is going, so if the Decepticons find it, then all the other Autobots can just find somewhere else to go, right? Like you assholes couldn't have blown this tower up a lot sooner. You've waited so long to do it that you allowed the plot to happen, and I cannot forgive that. As I watch Optimus Prime run on the top of this tower in which nothing around it is visible, I'm wondering, how did he know there was a Decepticon flying by right now that he could jump onto? In case you confused it with Saturn. Did this dude in the very back of the formation need to use the halt signal? Who's he telling to halt here?
You take cover!
Bumblebee crash lands into Earth like a bomb, but he's no more effective at killing these guys than the paintballs they're using earlier. Also, in all the paintball training camps in all the giant forests in all the world, Bumblebee fell right into theirs. And isn't there a safer way for Autobots to enter a planet than crash landing into it?
And would someone please explain to me why you dropped napalm on your own guys?
Come on, this guy knows that wasn't napalm, right? If you've been in the military as long as this character supposedly has, you know your and that ain't napalm. Man, why didn't you just do this before? Optimus Prime said that Earth was well hidden, but the Decepticons find it in 3 minutes after Bumblebee crashes to the planet. So either Optimus really did f*** up by showing that hologram earlier, or he's a lying piece of The movie wants us to believe that Blitzwing takes the time to brand the missiles on the fighter jet he transforms into. Also, how does he even have missiles? Where are those stored when he's running around in Decepticon form?
Run.
Man, you had 10 other valuable seconds to tell everyone to run, and you waited until the Decepticon is about to fire missiles to warn everybody. This is the most worthless run command since the time I spent all day incorrectly copying that free program from Compute's Gazette on my Commodore 64.
I'll never talk.
Then let's make it official.
Blitzwing gives us the Bumblebee voice box origin story, but inexplicably throws him down a mountain, only to grab him again to explain why he's going to kill him. Hey Bob, did you hear what sounded like 2 giant alien robot machines blowing each other the f*** up somewhere nearby? Yeah, but it's f***ing Lake Day, man! And I have one rule, never be curious.
Where's breakfast?
My question is, why did you brush your teeth just before breakfast? During Charlie's introduction, we've had to endure 90 seconds of teen angst to the tune of Big Mouth Strikes Again, and now she's about to eat some Mr. T cereal. So I guess this is the hipster version of 80s nostalgia. Not quite as sugary as The Wedding Singer, but just as bad for your teeth.
Can you drop your brother at karate on your way to work, please?
I could if I had a car.
From the moment Charlie walked in, everything about this scene has felt wrong. While the family is probably still recovering from Charlie's dad's death, and it's still awkward, it appears that new family rules have started today for no reason. Then Charlie's mom inexplicably asks her to drop her brother at karate when Charlie has no car. It's like this family is meeting each other for the first time just this morning. I get the whole putting a phallic-shaped food item in your mouth can be sexy, but a corn dog? I guess if I wasn't circumcised. What? Charlie works at a place called Hot Dog on a Stick, and I'm wondering why this place has the policy of making their only worker manning the booth deliver food to customers halfway across the fairgrounds. I'm guessing probably because of the awkward hijinks that can happen, but I'm wondering more for business reasons.
I need the half-inch.
I said the 3.
Character, usually a girl, shows her proficiency at cars by knowing something that a certified mechanic doesn't know cliché. Man, they really laid on the bee imagery thick in this movie. It's shocking they missed the chance to have Charlie eating Cheerios instead of this Mr. T cereal. Or a chance encounter where Haley Steinfeld meets Jerry Seinfeld, saying one of the many hilarious lines from Bee-Movie that I can't remember because there are so many. Also, how exactly did Bumblebee transform into this Volkswagen Beetle? Everything about him was failing after Blitzwing f***ed him up, and he was still able to transform. This somehow works.
We know he's planning to establish a base. Tell us where it is.
Why wouldn't Shatter just go where they sent Blitzwing? Seems like that would be a good starting point.
That's B-127's signal.
So Charlie just happened to turn on B when these 2 assholes were torturing Cliffjumper on f***ing Saturn, and twisting a sword in his chest gave them a clear signal, and Shatter knew it was B's just by hearing it. And why the shit is this guy on one of Saturn's moons anyway? Did Optimus give him the same bullshit speech he gave to Bumblebee, only about Saturn?
I've got to see what happens to Alf this week.
Who the f*** says this? Doesn't everybody who watches a show say, I want to watch insert title of show here tonight? And seriously, why does Alf seemingly always appear when a movie goes back to the 80s? Alf f***ing sucked! Wait a minute, if Charlie has a Polaroid of her and her dad, then what is this picture here? Did she convert the Polaroid into a standard picture size for framing? How would you do this back in 1987?
If I get it started, I keep it, and I work here every day for a year.
Out of all the movies I thought Bumblebee would steal from, pay homage to, Christine was not one of them. But here we are. 1, 2, 3 Haley Steinfelds. Well, she always said that she was going to love herself and didn't need anybody else.
Charlie, what was that noise?
There's no way that Bee knew that someone else was walking into the garage in time to convert into the Beetle before they saw him. She didn't even hear the Transformer noise. And look, I know we're in a hyper-realized world, I just choose not to accept it. Also, what exactly did Charlie do when she fixed Bumblebee? Sure, she made the car run, but did she also help him with all that near-death damage we saw him take earlier?
You sound like a little bumblebee.
It really doesn't, but roll credits. This movie has now had 2 scenes of people refusing to move when a large flaming object is flying right at them from the sky. Also, this gas station clearly has an identity crisis. Here the sign says gas and guzzlin', but the sign above the station says guzzlin' and gas. Seriously, these asshole Transformers need to find a better way to land on a planet, other than just crashing. Sure, these are Decepticons, but this could have easily been Bumblebee or any number of good Transformers crashing down and killing lots of people. If they were just gonna do this, then why were they ever in car form?
Earth, how underwhelming.
Alien race comes down to Earth, sees like 10,000 square feet of area, and declares it to suck, cliché.
Indigenous life is even more primitive than I expected.
What exactly are they basing this on? Sure, Roy doesn't appear to be anyone's definition of a winner, but they haven't spent the last 2 minutes with him hearing him griping about how grounded for life's sister wouldn't sleep with him. You'd think even evil robots would know you have to take in a greater sample size of life forms before judging.
B-127's distress signal came from the western coast of this continent.
Why we couldn't just land there instead of the middle of nowhere bumf. That's the mystery of Transformers. Anyway, glad we killed that cheating redneck. Let's get some pork rinds and hit the road. I guess strictly because Transformers were never a toy or cartoon in this universe where Transformers are actually real, GoBots are king. In this universe, Michael Bay makes terrible GoBot movies. The point is, I think the success of GoBots in this universe is a definite sin. Also, fellow amusement park employee and potential love interest lives next door to Charlie because movie.
Mom took it. She had to bring Conan to the vet, and Ron needed the station wagon.
So many things are f***ed up about this scene. Her mom just steals Charlie's car literally minutes before she wakes up, and she didn't have time to ask Charlie about it. Meanwhile, Ron is enjoying breakfast with Otis, but the second Charlie walks out into the garage, he's already halfway to the station wagon, even though he in no way looked like he was about to go out the door. And neither of these two dicks even bothered to tell Charlie about her car till she discovered it missing. Furthermore, this is a classic what did they do before Charlie bought a car scenario. You mean this asshole Ron couldn't take his wife's dog to the fucking vet on the way to whatever he needed to do with that station wagon? This whole scenario is manufactured to create conflict. Charlie parks her scooter in the middle of the road and after a stupid discussion with her mom, gets in the car to drive and leaves the scooter just sitting in the road as a hazard or a free bike for anyone who's feeling really steely today.
Did you put that robot junk away?
Christina Hodson conveniently recycles dialogue from her unproduced robot porn script, I, Robot, You, Jane.
2 of them just made contact in Texas. Intel says they're heading west fast.
We're going to Texas.
Why Texas? Didn't he just tell you that they were in Texas and they were heading west fast? Maybe you want to investigate whatever they did in Texas, but they aren't there anymore, are they? It was sometime at night when the Decepticons got here, right? And they immediately headed west fast, according to the military? Even figuring Texas's huge size, wouldn't they be farther than this by now? None of this makes any sense.
B-127's signal has gone silent.
If B's signal's gone silent, what were you planning to do when you hit the West Coast, which encompasses California, Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, Yukon, and Alaska? Why haven't you discussed this with your partner already?
What are you doing? This is humiliating.
And stupid to say, because you're talking just as loud as Shatter, and these guys can hear every word you're saying.
Ravage, eject.
What the f*** was this guy expecting his robot dog to do here? Optimus is about to get surrounded anyway, so what's the goddamn point of using your attack dog? In the end, these movies are exactly what the Transformers the movie was, a long advertisement for toys.
No, why would you play this?
Because how else is the audience supposed to remember you threw out your diving trophies, and that diving will be important in this movie later? Just how deep into 1987 are we here? Appetite for Destruction came out in July 1987, but nobody really cared about it until the next year. In Excess's Kick album came out in October of 1987. The Smiths' Strange Ways, Here We Come was released in September. I grant you it's possible she has those albums in whatever month this is 1987. But, wait a minute. Can we see that Alf episode they were watching? I remember this episode vividly. It was called You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog. And it aired February 29th, 1988. Could the time have passed from 1987 to 88 since we last saw a year on the screen? Yes. Am I sinning this? Yes. Charlie clearly picks a tape from the bottom middle column of this box, and it's going to be Rick Astley. But earlier, there was no Rick Astley in this column when she was choosing tapes. The song that plays is Never Gonna Give You Up, which is the ALF of 1980s music references.
I used to listen to this while we'd work on the Corvette.
Father and daughter used to listen to Unchained Melody while working on a Corvette? I don't think so. Anyway, at least they weren't making pottery.
If we tell them no, they'll just take their technology to the Russians instead.
Dr. Bumblebee, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Transformers. Also, I'm not sure which part of this is more insane. That Dr. Powell thinks the Decepticons can be trusted enough to use America's satellite systems, or that they would have any f***ing knowledge of the US's issues with Russia.
You really want to go down in history as a man who caused us the Cold War?
Because going down as the man that allowed the planet to be turned over to alien robots is so much better on a resume.
Nerd. Excuse me.
Dude, I definitely believe working up the courage to ask the neighbor girl out is a thing, but just barging into her home? Who f***ing does that? Especially when they're worried any stupid thing they do might blow their chance.
No one can know what you just saw.
Actually, with the lack of boundaries her own family exhibits throughout this movie, I wonder how they haven't heard strange noises and investigated, or simply just walked in on her talking to her alien robot car. The movie is treating her mom's near miss like a one-time thing.
No one can know what you just saw. You promise?
Yeah.
Power of boners will allow many secrets to be kept and also give one the ability to not shit their pants when a car turns into a giant robot in front of them.
They're combining our technology seamlessly. Satellites, phones, computers. They're creating an interconnected web of information.
While public use of the internet as we know it didn't happen until 1989 or so, surely Dr. Powell knows that the technology he's so excited about right now is already possible. This is like Paul Rudd getting excited about time travel when we know his 26-year-old self keeps traveling a year into the future to kill his older self and take his place.
It's revolutionary.
Maybe this is the best Transformers movie since the first one, or possibly period, but I'm still sinning the fact that they couldn't resist infecting this with yet another version of Agent f***ing Simmons.
He's a weird guy. You don't notice that about Paul?
Could we just stop trying to make John Cena, the comedian, a thing in this movie?
You're trying to teach yourself how to talk, aren't you?
And it sure is convenient all these specific songs are playing on a radio station when he needs them to be. I mean, I guess it's possible that he's just playing songs from some 1980s iTunes library, but if that's the case, I don't know why the radio dial has to move to certain stations for him to speak. If you had told me this movie started off as a cheap Greg Louganis biopic and some Hollywood producer read it and said, but we can make a Transformers movie out of it, I would believe you.
This car is an embarrassment. You should have your dad buy you a better one. Oh, wait. Sorry.
Movie didn't have enough conflict with Transformers battling each other and humans, so I'm glad it decided to add in some pointless Tina Charlie jabbing for good measure. Damn, it took totaling this car for an alarm to go off?
Stop the car, please.
You're telling me this car is only going 35 miles per hour at the time memo says this? If so, why did the cop clearly see them going well over 60 here? This movie is thankfully less than 2 hours, something that the other 17 Transformers movies didn't have the restraint to do. But with the Charlie doesn't dive scene, wanton destruction of private property, and speeding scenes this movie includes, we could have shaved about 20 minutes off this puppy too.
After what happened last night, pretty sure the cops are looking for you.
This also means, I guess, she never registered this car, because cops should be able to find it strictly through that. But why worry about license and registration in a movie like this, right? Bumblebee!
Here, you can have my Pop-Tart.
Am I supposed to believe that Charlie thinks he can eat the Pop-Tart and or needs to eat? Because if so, she's just been letting him starve this whole time. Movie doesn't know how to dog, since there's no way this Pop-Tart isn't already eaten. Homebound hijinks! Does this movie ever actually get to Bumblebee? Bee crashes into this TV and somehow Pong starts playing without anyone turning on the system or the TV itself. And while this family has a never-ending budget to buy all the latest albums, they somehow haven't upgraded to an NES yet. This is basically the E.T. gets drunk scene in E.T., except Charlie doesn't unleash a bunch of frogs on a science class and doesn't get to kiss Erica, a laniac. I'm just going to point out here that the Decepticons' plan to take all our technology to find Bumblebee would have turned up nothing if he didn't suddenly get the urge to snoop around Charlie's house and stick his finger in an electrical socket. Also, I know that What's Robot got to do with it told her partner that Bumblebee's signal was off, but since we've seen him fire up a hologram, and he's constantly using the radio to find a way to communicate, if that didn't give off a signal, what did?
It's Memo. You gotta come home right now.
Charlie felt like it was such an emergency, she made sure to change out of her work clothes before leaving.
About your car that you spend all day and night shut in that garage doing God knows what with?
What is Charlie's mom accusing her of, exactly?
There's this quote that I like. The darkest nights produce the brightest stars.
It's never gotten me laid before, but I'm thinking eventually it has to.
Tell us where Optimus Prime is hiding.
They tried getting this information by torturing that cliff jumper guy earlier, but instead of working him over some more, they killed him. Then they traveled from Saturn to Earth and went through a whole bunch of Just to ask Bumblebee the same questions, he's way more unlikely to answer than the last dude was.
You know, when I was going through puberty, I stole things too.
Ron.
Let go of me! You're touching my buttocks!
Hilarious line for sure, but her hands are nowhere near where you say they are. As a kid of the 80s, I can tell you with utmost certainty that no one had a f***ing poster of John Carpenter's The Thing. The movie didn't do well and wasn't even talked about until many years later. No one watched it, no one talked about it.
McKinnon Air Base. If Bumblebee's still alive, that's where they're keeping him.
Well, good thing you walked over to Memo's place right as the most important part of this newscast was playing. Also, the movie expects us to believe that Memo is a teenager who would just be hanging out in his room watching the f***ing news.
Last chance.
Why is it his last chance? Are you expecting some other lucky signal from space to give you another lead so you can fruitlessly torture some other Autobot about the rebel base?
Are you sure this is a good idea?
Oh, sure, this base holds the first known existence of alien life, but nobody's around to guard it, despite the news telling us earlier that a ton of military people were coming to Brighton Falls for some unknown reason. You'd think they'd have enough personnel for this simple task, but you'd be wrong. Holy f***, they got into the most highly classified area of the base, too? Did we miss the scene where Charlie and Memo iced a bunch of America's finest soldiers? Lucky Death Kick is lucky.
We will fight on. Regroup, rebuild.
Why does this recording even exist, other than to give the Decepticons and Charlie an easy way to learn what's going on? Optimus told B everything before he sent him off to Earth. Did Optimus have a what if B loses his memory after a fight with Blitzwing and John Cena backup plan in place?
I am coming.
Prime is coming here.
They're all coming here.
And it's gonna get messy. Quick, call in the Bukkake experts. Also, Dropkick, Prime won't be here until the sequel. Sure, in the actual 80s, he would have been in this movie, but it's the 2010s, and we've got film universes, and these things have to be spaced out so we can bitch on Twitter about it.
We'll burn the whole planet to cinders.
And we'll be sure to kill Dr. Powell as soon as he gets done radioing this to John Cena, so I see no problem talking about this out loud.
He's all yours.
Why is Powell here alone? I get that they were giving Shatter and Dropkick access to the satellites to find B, but there's no f***ing way they wouldn't always have a group of soldiers with them. Shatter and Dropkick didn't hear this.
You gotta wake up, please.
This scene would be 100% more effective if I wasn't aware that there were 5 god-awful Transformers movies that take place after this, and Bumblebee is all over that. I see Bumblebee went to the iRobot school of eye color changing when going from good to bad that I've heard so much about. Also, isn't it great that after he nearly died and got shot by a bunch of electrical guns, he suddenly got all his powers back? Agent Burns survives this. B goes on this super rampage of blowing shit, but manages to not kill one person, thereby keeping his good guy status. This is like that scene in T2 when Arnold Schwarzenegger fires a bunch of grenades at the cops at Cyberdyne and purposely misses just enough not to kill anyone, but all on accident.
If the Decepticons find Earth, then our people are truly finished.
Yes, but the Decepticons only realized that Earth was important because of this very message. They didn't know Earth was the new base until Dropkicked Bumblebee, and the hologram of you popped up. 3 Decepticons so far have found Earth, but it meant nothing. Sorry for the trivialities here, but what Optimus really meant was that the Decepticons learned that Earth was the new base, it would be bad.
I'll go on and buy you some time with these guys.
Oh, wait, what?
It's just breaking. There appears to be a high-speed chase underway just outside McKinnon Air Base.
This movie has more convenient newscasts than Happy Death Day and Die Hard 2 combined.
That was radical.
We'll save you the vomit that occurs right after this, because the movie sure should have. Also, not to be outdone by the Fast and Furious films, next summer we'll get the Otis and Ron movie, where they get called in by the government for no logical reason to help them stop a scientifically enhanced former government agent played by Jaleel White.
Preparing satellites to transmit our message.
Sure, Bumblebee gets his power turned on briefly and his signal immediately goes to Saturn, but these dicks have to waste a bunch of time with an Earth satellite to transmit a message to their own people. This dumpster is made of the same material as the refrigerator in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I'm sure someone's winning here. Let's see. The blue one kicked the yellow one and then got slammed into the thing. So we'll carry the 1 minus the 5. Yep, definitely don't know or give a shit. If impossibly avoiding flying debris is a skill, Charlie has it in spades. It's at this point that I'm reminded that the Decepticons were given permission to take over phone lines and satellites to create the internet and find Bumblebee. And while that basically did nothing to help them find him, having control over those satellites would have been amazing for them to transmit this message. I'm not quite sure why they couldn't just tap into that technology again, instead of waiting for a slow-ass radio tower to do it for them, but that's your typical third act bull for you. Also, this hyphen and percent bothers me. It bothers me a f***ing lot. Also, again, when they went to Earth, Did they not tell any of their superiors that's where they were going? After the first one that came down to kill Bumblebee died, it's crazy they haven't sent more Decepticons down here after Shatter and Dropkick located Bee's signal. All I have to shoot are bullets right now. I mean, sure, I have missiles, but why bother? If they had just made Charlie a former gymnast instead of a diver, this sequence becomes at least 67% more believable. I wish writers realized that sometimes it's the little things that matter most. Oh, there's my missile. Sorry about the bullets earlier. I mean, you fired on us earlier and probably killed some of my men, but I guess we're cool now. High five? Shatter jumps down from the top of the tower and then transforms into a jet. Why not just stay in your robot form and slice Charlie up instead of impotently staring at her in jet form? And Shatter somehow thinks that she's going to shoot Charlie when there's vulnerable communication equipment here that she needs and could destroy. But why do anything smart when we need Bumblebee to save the day? This entire finale reminds me of Iron Man 3. You could splice scenes from it into this one, and no one would notice. Thank God Charlie's diving finally pays off. The movie could have simply not put diving in this at all, but why do that when you can make your movie stupid? By the way, what exactly does Charlie do to get Bumblebee out of here? He's clearly still alive and needs no assistance. Not like she could have pulled him out of the water herself, so she dove for no f***ing reason.
Hey, soldier!
Everyone driving on the bridge sees this, right? Charlie could have tried a more secluded spot for this farewell.
Thank you.
So much
For giving me my voice.
Where the f*** did he find all those talk shows at the same time to make a coherent sentence? He's been communicating exclusively through song, but luckily they hit the talk show jackpot at whatever time this is. But I guess everyone else will, because I have no f***ing clue why the government is shocked when these things show up again in 2007. I was really hoping these two kids would find each other in the end. What's his name again?
Old friend, you kept this planet safe.
Did he though, Optimus? Did he though? Does no one watch the skies for a living anymore? And when all these assholes land, won't this get detected by the Richter scale? The
I am the Martian ambassador. We come in peace.
Starving. That's your trouble, Larry. That's why your sales are always behind quota. Your instinct to eat is stronger than your instinct to win. Charlie, don't surf!
There it is! There's the dented beetle!
Oh, I should have let you die, Grenada.
I was there when the hit the fan at Grenada. I saw it all go down at Grenada.
Fish are jumping today, huh, Dano?
Offer me money. Power 2, promise me that. Offer me everything I ask for.
General Kenobi, years ago you served my father in the Clone War. Now he begs you to help him in his struggle against the Empire.